All of my exes die after we break up. The Curse of Holly Eve. Casey, Part 4. Casey and I watched as Colin held that knife at his neck with a trembling in his hand, eventually slightly driving the sharp blade into his soft skin.
"Give me both parts of the necklace,"
Colin screamed up at us. I followed Colin's frightened eyes and saw that they were looking behind us. I whipped around and for the quickest of seconds I saw a charred figure standing right behind Casey and I. I then saw that figure rush at Casey. I couldn't react fast enough to help Casey. Holly Eve's apparition knocked him down the stairs and I watched him tumble down about 20 steps until he landed at Colin's feet. I could feel a cold wind rush at me next, but I hurried down the stairs and was able to avoid it. My foot caught on one of the steps awkwardly and twisted, tripping me and sending me down the stairs just like Casey. In a flash, I was at the bottom, back with Colin, and I could see he had dropped his knife down to his waist. Casey was on the ground between us, knocked out.
"You can't take it from me. You can't take her from me,"
Colin whispered to me as he stood above me. "What?" I asked and looked back up the stairs, seeing Holly Eve's apparition standing there, swaying at the top.
"I don't want to let go of her,"
Colin went on. I went to look back at Colin, and just as I did, out of the corner of my eye, I saw Holly Eve fly down the entire flight of stairs in a blink, gliding on air. I found myself between the two of them. I looked up and saw them staring into each other's eyes. Suddenly, the newfound strength Colin had found started to vanish. He started to tremble and step away from Holly Eve. She held out her hand and motioned for him to give her something. I could feel something radiating out of Holly Eve. It was a sadness, no longer anger, a yearning to be set free. It prompted a revelation in me. I think she was able to plant there as I sat at her feet. It was not Holly Eve who was holding on. It was Colin. I looked up into Holly Eve's burning eyes, and memories that were not mine flooded into my mind. I was with Holly Eve on that property, out in the woods, in the middle of the night. I was pressed up against a tree by a young Colin, his eyes soft and kind as he moved in to kiss me delicate on the lips. There was no denying it felt true. I then looked into Colin's eyes from the ground. They were burning, just like Holly Eve's. I was transported back to the moment in the woods, looking at a younger, fuller Holly Eve, who I saw smile for the very first time. She was a different person as young Colin was with her there, and he uttered those 3 dangerous little words. "I love you." Still on the floor, I watched fat tears start to drop out of Colin's eyes. Another memory started to come to me. I was now out in the field outside of the house, looking at an older, more rustic version of the building we were currently in. Resting on a moonlit night in a soft wind, ignited in flame, I watched young Holly Eve dash across the field and disappear into the house. Then I was inside the house, barely able to see through all the smoke, but I still saw Holly Eve rushing through her old bedroom, searching for something, lost in the smoke, coughing and slowing. She wasn't finding it and she was succumbing to the smoke. It wasn't long before she dropped to the hardwood floor, but she also got what she came for. Clutched in her hand was that half-heart necklace Colin had given her. I was back on the floor as well, looking up at Colin and Holly Eve's spirit, locked in a stare.
"I came back to your house to tell you I wanted to be with you. I had changed my mind,"
Colin said to Holly Eve.
"I just didn't get there in time."
I was back in the burning house again, in a memory that wasn't mine. I looked out the window and saw a young Colin running through the field outside, making his way to the house in a full-on sprint. Back on the floor, out of the memory, was still looking at Colin cry above me.
"You don't believe me?"
Colin asked Holly Eve. She shook her head. No. Colin reached out and put his hand softly on Holly Eve's forehead, and I was transported back to the memory. I was inside the house, the flames licking at me. I could feel their heat on me, and I could barely see because of the smoke all around. Yet, I could see Colin frantically searching the house, making his way up to Holly Eve's bedroom. I heard him call out to her, his voice breaking with sadness and panic. He kept screaming and screaming. What he didn't know yet, I could already see. Holly Eve on the ground, the flames already to her, consuming her, not far from me on the floor. I think the smoke took out Holly Eve, and she couldn't even feel her body being consumed with flames, thankfully. She didn't scream in pain. She just laid there and succumbed. Colin still had no idea. He moved through the smoke calling for her, coughing and nearly succumbing himself. Could feel it though. Could feel him scream out in pain as flames caught him, eventually catching his clothes on fire. I watched him get taken by the flames and collapse next to me. I saw his blue eyes shining through the smoke as they laid upon Holly Eve, fully aflame, just a handful of feet from him. I watched tears fall from those eyes as he slipped away. Back in the room, I watched Colin strip his shirt off and reveal extensive scarring over a good portion of his torso. The sight seemed to soften Holly Eve. She looked at the scars all over his chest and back, and her eyes started to wet.
I came back for you,
Colin said softly. Back in the burning house in the memory, I watched firefighters rush in and take Colin away, just as he passed out. They didn't get Holly Eve. She was left there to burn. The memories drifted away and I felt myself completely in the moment on the floor, looking up at Colin and Holly Eve.
You never stay,
Colin said to Holly Eve. I felt Holly Eve communicate back to him silently. You want me to stay? I was back in memories. This time in what appeared to be Colin's teenage bedroom. Him clutching that half-heart necklace, rubbing it with his thumb, looking at a mirror as he sees the image of Holly Eve's apparition for just a second. His face lights up. He squeezes the half-heart necklace, then she's gone, and his face falls flat.
I kept trying to find ways to find you.
Back in Colin's memories, we were in a cheap motel with a sex worker. They were kissing, but he looked hesitant. He kept looking at the mirror, clearly trying to find something. The sex worker noticed and grew wary. She pulled away from him.
What is this? You have someone watching you or something?
The sex worker asked Colin. Just as she finished her question, the image of Holly Eve flashed in the mirror Colin was looking at. The sex worker saw Colin's eyes light up, and then hers followed his until she caught a glimpse of Holly Eve in the mirror. The sex worker screamed and pushed Colin away. Then she rushed out of the room.
I paid for love because it was the only way I could connect with you. I couldn't date regular girls anymore because you always chased them away. Then you even chased away the paid ones, and I had to go yet another route.
The memories kicked back in and I was in a dark strip club with Colin, watching him hand over $20 bills to a stripper, looking beyond exhausted.
The strip clubs were a public enough space that you didn't seem to terrorize the girls. I would get to see you.
In the strip club, I could see Colin getting a lap dance. Across the little space sat Holly Eve.
But now, I'm almost out of money. That's why I came here tonight. My last chance to maybe keep seeing you.
I blinked deliberately a bunch of times and was able to get myself out of the memory and back into the house, looking up at Colin and Holly Eve, eyes still locked on each other. Holly Eve slowly reached out her open palm, upwards, wanting something. Colin balked, clearly not wanting to give up. She just kept her hand there, kept her eyes sad and haunting. Still, Colin didn't give in. I watched Holly Eve's mouth move, but no words came out. Yet I could tell exactly the single word she mouthed to him. Please. I watched Colin think about it for a few more moments, then hand over his half of the half-heart necklace.
I'm sorry. It's crazy to say now, but I did love you back then.
Holly Eve moved towards Colin. He flinched for a second. She wrapped him in a strong hug, a long one. They held there for a little while. He just kept saying he was sorry, over and over and over again. Eventually, Colin was standing there all by himself. Holly Eve was gone. I got Casey up and got the three of us out of there. Colin told us he did feel like he could finally live life now before he walked into his apartment. I didn't really believe him. I wasn't sure if things really worked out for Colin or not. He never appeared on the Curse of Holly Eve subreddit. The rest of the group started to reappear though. Everyone was noting that Holly Eve seemed to have gone away. I noticed it too. I went a long time without any kind of encounter or even vibe from her. I swear I used to frequently feel a lingering presence around me when I was alone, and it was gone. Eventually, some of the members of the group even started talking about successfully dating, no longer getting issues and attacks from Holly Eve. They were finally finding love. I gave it some time and I told Katie about what happened, and we felt it was okay for us to part ways. We got divorced as quickly as we could. I started to branch out myself once we separated. A few days ago, I set up a dating app profile. Then earlier today, I started skimming through profiles, sending likes and messages. I was elated when I received my first like from someone. I raced to find out who she would be. I haven't looked up the profile yet. The name was enough to get me to close the app. Holly Eve. This has been the final episode of the Holly Eve saga, and was written by the incredibly talented writer JameGum724. That's JameGumb 724. Why not go and check out their other work on Reddit? Colin was performed by Interscare. Sex Worker was performed by Interscare Wifey. For links to these talented creators, look in the description. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe, comment, share and like. And press the bell to get notifications when new videos are uploaded. If you have a story that you want Jimmy Horrors to read, send it to jimmyhorrorsnarrations@gmail.com. Until next time, stay horrific, everyone.